This is the Automotive Talent Show, hosted by Cameron Cresswell, bringing you conversations with people shaping the automotive industry across Australia, New Zealand and beyond. Each episode explores career journeys, business stories and real insights into the market, the challenges, the shifts and what's happening on the ground right now. This is Automotive Talent. Let's begin.
In this episode of the Automotive Talent Show, my guest is Tegan Blockey, dealer principal of Birdge Toyota up there in Darwin and Gove Toyota, as well as Lexus of Darwin. In this episode, we discuss having a crocodile for a pet, leading a business that you grew up in, as well as having leaders, not managers. Let's get into it. All right, the Tegan Blockey story. So appreciate you taking the time to have a chat with me today, mate. Tegan, I've been really looking forward to this conversation. So where does the Tegan Blockey story all begin? Naturally, you're the dealer principal of Birdge Toyota, Gove Toyota and Lexus of Darwin, but you haven't always been a Darwin person.
No, I haven't. I moved up from Adelaide when I was 19. My parents were living up here and a friend and I sort of thought, let's go up and see where my parents are. When they moved up here, I was 15 and I moved out of home to be able to complete year 11 and 12. And I thought, why not Darwin? And we were coming up here for a year. And if you speak to a lot of Territorians, that's absolutely the normal journey that a lot of people have up here is you're coming up here for 6 months or a year and then you end up falling in love with the place and you end up staying. Here I am 20 years later this August. So it's been amazing.
Yeah, it is. I've been up there myself. I was up there for about 8 months myself and I was there for work. So it was, I knew that I was always going to come home eventually. It does hold a piece of you, Darwin. Well, it did for me anyway. It's just, I can't wait to get back there. It's a magic place.
It is beautiful. You definitely need to be able to leave a couple of times throughout the year just to be able to have a break from the heat, because if it's not hot, it's even really hotter. But as long as you can get away, whether it's, an hour away to Bali or interstate anywhere else in Australia, living up here is it's just different in all the best ways.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. So the automotive journey, the question I always ask is, how did the automotive industry enter your life? Can you explain how that all came about?
I can. I was actually not looking to join automotive. I was going through the last 3 components of joining the police force and doing all of the necessary interviews. And I have family that work in the trade. And I was asked by a friend of a friend to say, hey, we've got a position. Do you want to come sell car care? And I thought, well, I can always be in the police force. So I accepted the role and absolutely it was the best decision of my life. I really have never, ever looked back.
Yeah, many like many people, hold you captive and yeah. You like what do they call it? Stockholm syndrome, when you get kidnapped and then you fall in love with the person that's kidnapped you. It's
Yeah, definitely.
Kind of like that. And I suppose the rest, they say, it's history, isn't it? Naturally, started off in car care. That was in Darwin or Adelaide?
There was a little bit of a car care in Adelaide, and then and then I moved up here and started working for Birdge Toyota, which is 20 years ago this August. I did car care and then I did that for a few years, and then I slowly began working my way up and sold vehicles onto sales manager, general sales manager, and then now dealer principal. So it's been an incredible journey. I was really lucky to be able to meet someone really early on, which probably kept me captive in Darwin a bit longer. He's territory born and bred.
Yeah, that would have helped.
He was an apprentice when we first met. Actually, we've nearly been married 18 years. So, and he works here too still. So we definitely eat, breathe and live Birdge Toyota, Lexus of Darwin. So it's wonderful to be able to share that too.
Yeah. Such a rare story. Well, it's not a rare story as far as, people progress through the industry. And that's one of the great things about the industry. But to do it all in the one place, like and I don't want to sound like I'm pumping up your tires, but that's a real big achievement, because normally, you normally it's easy. Well, it definitely is easier for someone to go from sales manager in dealer X to general sales manager in dealer Y and then dealer principal in another business because, you're coming in as the new person. No one knows you, you
Yes,
might have a reputation because everyone knows everyone within the industry, but you don't.
sure.
To go from being a peer to a leader and then from a leader to, the ultimate accountability, that you must be really proud of that, Tegan.
I am. The way that I've never really sat there and thought about it with how you've just explained it, but I am truly proud. And at times, it's probably made me a better leader having that opportunity because we've still got people that have been here 20 plus years that remember when I was car care and, they might still be in the same role because they absolutely enjoy what they do or they've grown through the business as well. But it was really hard early on when I went from salesperson to sales manager. And then all of a sudden, I was trying to lead the people that, we were all sort of equal together. So, like I touched on before, I really think that that's helped me grow as a leader. And, it doubles when you're a female as well. And sometimes the younger one, like starting in the automotive industry
Yeah.
at 19, like I'm not 40 yet. I'm a year off, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Like it can be difficult to be able to, tell people that are older than you, suggest not tell them what to do, but it can be difficult leading older people.
Oh, well, leading's hard anyway, no matter what you
Yes.
do. But, it's like you've got 3 increased levels of difficulty, like you're a young person, you're a woman in a man's world.
Female. Yeah.
You were a peer and now you're their leader. And,
Hmm.
lead is something we could touch on a little bit later on. The increased level of, I think naturally people work for people that they respect,
Absolutely.
You must have been able to gather an awesome amount of respect from your people to be effective and to be able to do the things that you do. I think, there's no point even sort of talking about that because you wouldn't be in the position you are today without that, to be fair.
Yes, absolutely. I also feel that being a female leader has its extra flair that perhaps maybe some males don't get to have because I can come at it from a different emotional level and just such a maternal instinct being a mum and being a wife. I definitely, as most females would, we come at ability in a different way to a male, and sometimes I think that is just the extra flair that can happen with everyone here because it's really important to remind some of the leaders here. Perhaps maybe if you looked at it this way and then spoke to the team or the customers that way, then it gives them a different overview as well.
Absolutely, yeah. In fact, I think you could put it into being maybe a secret weapon. Like it's because
Possibly.
that's the thing, isn't it? You look at it, you as you say, you do look at things from a different way. Like I remember my journey, and I was managing people, but as soon as I became a dad, it's like, oh, hang on a second, like how would I like my son or daughter to be spoken to or handled or whatever the case may be. So we're all byproducts of our experiences, but yeah, coming at it from a different angle, that's I would say definitely a strong secret weapon. The degree of difficulty naturally is definitely present in there, and you're also doing it in a very supportive business. That's great. You've got a lot of. I know for a fact you've got a lot of support from the SLT team at Eagers, but you're doing it in a fairly remote place that's 5 hours away and 4 hours away from a plane from head office. So yeah, it's it's definitely something to be proud of. And that's all we need to say. We won't keep going on about it.
Thanks.
But yeah, you speak about imposter syndrome, and not fitting the traditional mold. And naturally, I suppose that speaks to that a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah. Imposter syndrome, I've spoken a little bit about it because it's been always around me for everything that I do. And I don't think it will take on anyone. It can choose you if you're male or female. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter
doesn't
if you're young or
discriminate.
old. It just,
Yeah.
it absolutely will come at you in the times where we step out and challenge ourselves. Imposter syndrome has been a big thing for me to recognize so I can basically step up and tell myself that I have earned that seat at the table. And I remember the first time I had that out of body experience when I was about to finish my advanced diploma with Toyota through management and leadership. And one of the last assignments we had to do was present at the Toyota Center of Excellence to the Toyota president and many VPs in the room. And the whole room was full of males. And here I come in. This was a few years back. That was the first point I sort of had in my career where I thought initially is this me? Am I going to do this right? Like, have I earned this right to be here, sort of thing? And then I stood up at the lectern and I just pushed that that voice away that was basically pulling me back down. And I said, no, I have earned my seat at the table. And I just stood up, and that was just a pivotal moment for me, where you had that out of body experience. And I'm sure we've all experienced that, but it's really important
Most
in that
days.
time. Yeah. In those times, you just push that voice away and just really hone in and trust yourself and back yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And look, I think, to be fair, I think Donald Trump might be a rare personality, but I think even the most successful and the most senior of people, as far as their level of accountability, would probably go through. I think every time I feel it, do the work, put yourself out there. The activity will breed success. You need to prove yourself. So, that part of it is. But it's the old analogy that I love is that success is not owned; it's just rented, and the rent's due every day. And it's
I love that. That's great.
Yeah, I always think of that and go, all right, get on with it. And the other thing that would have been a strong part of your journey, is that you've been mentored by you don't get to where you are, but without being mentored by someone that identified the potential in you. Who comes to mind when you think of people that have mentored you along the way?
Good question. Well, my dad, Steve Harris, he's been in the automotive industry for 40 plus years. I've practically grown up with automotive, always around, and my uncle, he was in the automotive industry too, and then married in with other family members, and it's always been a part of life, but definitely him. And there's been a couple of people at Toyota, even really early on when Eagers was a lot small, Keith, he would visit Darwin quite regularly from Eagers. And, I've got the ability to pick up the phone and have a chat with him. And, maybe a lot of people wouldn't feel comfortable to do that. But there's been a few people, and I'm really thankful and grateful that I had so many amazing leaders before me, because if they weren't around, I might not have recognized my ability, because they saw it, and I just keep pushing. And when you have family and other people and big legacies to fill and big shoes to fill, I always have to do it 150%, not just 100%, because I need to be able to extra prove my worth and the way that I do things.
Yeah. Absolutely. It would make your family get-togethers like a therapy session, I suppose, at some point. Because I know with my dad, obviously with my family history, and Dad always goes, "What's going on?" They're always, there's always that little, "Oh yeah, I remember when that used to go." It's always a bit of a PTSD shared therapy kind of part of family gatherings for sure. Yeah,
it can be good, but we need to limit it to the first 20 minutes. Otherwise, it just takes over the whole conversation.
Correct. Yeah. Everyone that's not in the industry gets very bored and walks away from you. Birdge is a part of Eagers, as you say, and Eagers has grown exponentially in the 20 years nearly that you've worked for them. 300 businesses now, 60 plus brands. Massive market share. Now has dealerships both in Australia and New Zealand, and also Canada as well, which is only happened in the last 12 months. How does it feel like being a part of a business of that size?
I suppose when you look at the numbers on paper, Eagers would seem really big, and they are. But you don't feel like that when you work for Eagers. Like you touch on, they are now a global company. And I do remember when corporate, only had less than 10 people. Birdge Toyota were the first acquisition outside of Queensland in 2005. And they've grown significantly in that time frame, but never lost the touch. There's always been really good senior leaders across everywhere that we're able to speak to with frequent visits, and just teams of other support and resources that are there to be able to make sure that we can do what we need to do to keep great results happening.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you look at the senior leadership of Eagers too. It's stable. There's not a changing of the guard every 5 years. There's people that have grown through the organisation. They've been in the organisation for a considerable period of time. So that stability breeds stability, doesn't it? It breeds connection.
Yes.
It breeds relationship, and naturally, it's just a natural byproduct of it. And yeah, there's one of the secrets to the successes, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And do you have much in the way of autonomy as a DP working with Eagers? Like, obviously, you're the dealer principal, so the buck stops with you as far as Birdge Toyota and Darwin's concerned.
Yes.
And Gove, for that matter, which we'll get into. Do you have much autonomy in the way you operate your business? Obviously, within the Eagers and Toyota frameworks.
Probably more than people would expect. Being a dealer principal for Toyota, it's a little bit different, but in a great way. And we definitely have the ability. Eagers trust their leaders. They've got the right people, or they've chosen the right people for the roles that they've got across all of Australia and so on. They trust their leaders to be able to execute what they need to do. So most of the time, we've got great autonomy, and there's always that level of, making sure that they're fully aware of everything that they need to be aware of. But ultimately, it's a great business relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. To your point, like the stability of Eagers, you see that stability demonstrated by head office, the people there. Keith has grown through the business. Ed's grown through the business. There are plenty of people that have grown through the business. But then you look at dealerships, and you've grown through your business. So, the example has been set. It's like a part of the Eagers way that, we find the right people, we mold them, we challenge them, we give them the opportunity, and then we back them to do what they need to do. It's part of the Eagers success story, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's one of the good things, that they're always getting us to remember, or to think about our journeys and who we've got coming behind us as well. So they do a really great future leadership program that happens at a regional level as well as a national level. It's really important to be able to always have a journey of people that are coming through with the emerging leaders, because you can't do it by yourself. And to
Absolutely.
be like the old story goes, 5 heads are better than one, and so on. So it's really important to be able to surround yourself with good people, and Eagers do that really well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've, as we've said earlier, you've obviously maintained the business well. A lot of the people that are in your business have been there just as long, some of them longer than you. How do you go about maintaining that? Like, it's even though it's Darwin, people have options everywhere, right? So, how do you go about maintaining that stability and challenging your people and growing your team? What are sort of the initiatives that you sort of turn to?
Sure. Look, there's a small portion, and we track this in terms of staff turnover, but there is a small portion that can't be helped at times because Darwin is so transient. We're a very big government town up here, army and, people just coming up here for a couple of years and leave because of the heat. But I think when you fall in love with Darwin, and then you've got the ability to fall in love with Birdge, we do things in a different way. We know that we spend more time with each other than we do with our own families at home. And it's really important to be able to build inner trust in each department. And I've had a couple of people that have moved here from other dealerships in Darwin, and they say, I can't believe that this department gets along with this department. Like we are one. And then it just adds that next level, because we are one of 3 sites. So we've got a site in Darwin, we've got a site in Palmerston, which is 20 minutes out. And then we've got a site in Gove, which, depending on which way you want to get there, if you can drive there, which doesn't take, which can't happen.
By sea, by air, or by road. The sea and the air part's the easier part, funnily enough.
Yeah. An hour and a half on a plane. Let's just leave it at that for now. But making sure that everyone has that connection through all of the sites. It's it's really important to invest heavily in the staff, and we do that in different ways by events. We do a heap of interconnection events where we'll do team events, boat trips, and cocktail making classes, all different things. And we always invite the partners. And even next week, we've got Toy Story 5 comes out, and I've rented out a whole cinema. So all of the families and friends, extended family can go, and we can just, all be together and enjoy one of the, classic movies that's, making its round again. So those things are really important.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a new school approach to old school, I suppose, like I remember as a kid, we were our family were the Ford dealers for the Gold Coast. And I remember going to the staff days, that were put on. And it wasn't just the staff member, it was everyone, kids,
Yep.
wives. Yeah, it was a community within the community. And I think that naturally breeds strong relationships, which breeds stability and longevity, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Like I've always said, if you've got happy staff, you'll have happy customers. So if you can invest in your staff, and they're the ones that are serving your customers on the bottom line, on the front line, should I say? So, which obviously comes back to the bottom line, but it's just crucial to be able to empower all of our team here. And I think back, if I had the ability to step up and learn on purpose and have other opportunities, I absolutely would have taken that. So that's one of the things that I look back on my journey and think, well, it would have been great if I had had extra, I suppose, courses or other things that were early on in my career of the ability of achieving. So we do put that back to a lot of the staff here. Every quarter, I'll send out an email with new training opportunities for the staff, whether that be through Eagers or Toyota, or even just institutes like local universities, so they can learn on purpose. I really heavily follow Richard Branson and his philosophies, and he's always, one of the things that he says is train your people so they can leave, but treat them so they won't want to.
Yeah.
And that is something that we heavily invest here in our staff, because we've got the ability that they can learn on purpose for those that want to. And, hopefully that will just keep them engaged a lot more here, and we'll have the ability to have longevity.
Absolutely, yeah. In my line of work, naturally, it's about people transition. But I think the things that always come to mind is that, it's like customers. Your people are engaged. The minute that engagement starts to wane, then they start looking at other opportunity. So to keep them engaged is about challenge, teaching, mentoring, offering progression, all of the things that come along with it. But it's naturally, I think Toyota absolutely do it exceptionally well. I know Eagers do it very well. And then, even looking at outside, because a lot of the stuff that we do in day-to-day dealer land, it's, doing a course can go, oh yeah, that's why we do it that way. Like it gives them the science behind the operation or the method and
the foundation. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they go, oh, what can I learn next? And then, the history keeps repeating. It's great. And one of the small little changes you've made is around job titles, Tegan. Can you fill us in a little bit on this, that little slight tweak that's made a big difference?
Absolutely. The old management team is now the leadership team. So all of our senior leaders, they are all called new car leader, used car leader, service leader. I think it's really important that they come about as leaders, because being a dictator and telling people what to do doesn't get you anywhere, and it hasn't done for a long time. And it's really important that our senior leaders are there with our teams, showing them what to do. They're in the trenches and explaining, this is how you do it, this is how you can get there, and I'm going to walk you through it. And they really do such a great way in leading that. When I took over, I changed all of their titles on their business cards, on their email signatures, because I can sit there until I'm blue in the face and tell them that, your new word is a leader, and that's your title. But until they actually see it and start, changing that mindset for themselves and believing it, that's just that little extra flair that I believe that we've got here, because when they believe they're a leader, they are helping their teams. And I think that speaks volumes of the way that we have that care for our staff here too. And it wouldn't surprise me if that becomes a new age change that people start changing their dealerships to. And, it doesn't even have to stop at automotive. It's just,
No, of course
let's
not.
just be a better kind of person and help those people that are around us to empower them and support them in a way that a leader does and not an old school dictator does, because times are changing and this is one of the great flares that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great touch because every staff appraisal, every piece of feedback talks about leadership and being a leader and not just a manager of people, yet the terminology we use is manager. It's like, well, the easiest way of changing someone's mindset is to get rid of the term altogether and actually put the right word in place that you want people to be.
It starts with the change of word.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a constant reminder that, you need to think like a leader and not just manage it. It's you need to lead it as someone who's got that accountability. No, well done. I think that's going to be something that a lot of people will start thinking about, maybe implementing in their businesses. But yeah, we'll little tip for those out there. And you mentioned, obviously, you come at the DP role from a different angle, different perspective, and that's, as I said earlier, it's been your secret weapon. We think the automotive industry is as being very stereotypical, but I think one of the great things about the year 2026 is that we're not the stereotype that we used to be. I don't think we've been that way for some time, to be fair. But what do you think the things that you're doing now and what you'll do into the future? Like, how do you think that will really benefit the next generation of leaders? Because I think from Eagers, the current generation of Eagers leadership, I think is taken it to a new level, and the next generation's probably going to take it to another level again. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. For us, we've got 168 staff and we've got 26% females. So it's a lot more than what it was when I first started, but we've still got room for improvement. I think it's really about getting out there and speaking to a lot of people that are still about to leave school. So we do a lot of school visits. We'll go out and we'll see a lot of the senior kids, or students, should I say, between years 10 up to year 12, just to really promote. For an automotive industry, we're not just sales and service. We're so much more. You can be an accountant with us. You can, be frontline reception. You can do parts interpreting. You can drive vehicles as a, parts delivery driver. There's so many different opportunities, and really trying to push more gender diversity into mechanical. We do have one female technician, but I'd like more. But I actually take her out with me when we go out and speak to different schools. There's about 5 of us that talk about our journeys, so they can, think maybe at one point they might want to join us. In terms of overall industry of where it's come, it's a lot different to what it was. And 100%. I can wholeheartedly, hand on heart say that, because being a woman in the automotive industry over 2 decades ago, it was always making the coffees. It was assisting the men doing their thing, and no matter sort of what role you had. But I'm pleased to say that that's changed. But there's still absolutely work to do, and conversations can really continue that natural trajectory to improve. Eagers do an amazing conversation about gender diversity. Toyota do women's conferences to really push that envelope and have good, difficult conversations around that as well. And it is actually improving. I will point out that when I did become dealer principal, I became dealer principal of Birdge Toyota and Lexus of Darwin. That was in 2024, and I was the first female dealer principal for a Lexus dealership across Australia. And so you sort of think, well, that's amazing. And I feel so privileged to have that honor. But at the same time, it's 2024. That should have probably already happened, right? So there's still absolutely room to improve that space. But it's definitely spoken about a lot more now, which is fantastic.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you'd know the Toyota world better than I would, but I think is it the World Skills Champion?
National Skills? Yes.
National Skill, like, is a female. Like, she's and I think she represented Australia to the world. Like, as far as, maybe it was a couple of years ago now, but yeah, I think she worked
for Toyota.
Yeah, for Toyota, yeah. I think she worked at Motorama down in Brisbane. But
Okay. That
but
goes through with the category. So we'll generally have a national winner for, sales, finance, and actually our customer relations consultant won it nationally as well. And she was a female. So it's wonderful. Like there's so much opportunity nowadays than there was, previous, and that's for
absolutely.
everything. So
Yeah.
it's such an amazing industry to work on. Anyone that's watching and you're thinking about joining automotive, jump in.
Get
It's the
in.
best decision you'll ever make.
Absolutely. Yeah. You'll find your village and you'll be one of the village people like the rest of us.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
100%. And that's the thing, isn't it? Like, like everyone talks now about work-life balance, right? Like that was the cliche, but it's not just gender exclusive roles, is it? Males are fathers too, just like women are mothers. It's balancing family is a family thing, not just something like for the old stereotypes. We're super connected now. We're more connected now than ever. But you
Yes.
still got to find the balance, don't you?
And it's difficult. It absolutely is so difficult because I think we've really made a good step in the right way, and we went to a 5-day working week for our salespeople. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Like we were one of the first to implement that because it used to be one RDO every fortnight, as you remember.
Yeah.
But, adding that in and then slightly finishing earlier on a Saturday and getting rid of Thursday nights, stops that extra choice for the customer, but it didn't see us sell any less cars or service any less cars. We're still got a great opportunity for our customers, and then our staff, are grateful for the times that we've got here as well. And that's always at the foresight of everything that we do, making sure that we can still run the business and do what we need to do to look after our customers. But at the same time, our staff are still very much up there in the choices that we make.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's some great ideas going on out there in the industry. I spoke to Mark Beats from Barton's a couple of episodes ago, and he employs salespeople part-time.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And he's naturally, because he wanted to help supplement, support the business when it needed supporting. But one thing that he's learnt out of it is that naturally you get people that are okay doing school hours, but you also get like university students who are pretty smart, pretty switched on, and they're happy to do that 3 days, 4 days a week and deliver that great service. And yeah, he's been very surprised with the results.
That's good. I mean, kudos to someone wanting to be able to shake it up and do something different, because it can only go one of two ways. But it sounds like it's going in the right way. That and again, like that's the great thing about this industry. We've got the ability to be able to think about doing something, not just doing the same thing because we've always done it that way. We need to be different. We've got new generation coming through. Life is different. And it's really important that we keep pushing those boundaries to be able to not just shake everything up, but do it in a way that can be quite a good milestone for the business and for the industry.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And look, as you mentioned earlier, the hardest part is getting the balance right, isn't it? Balancing your accountability in your work, your accountability at home, to extended family. Like, I suppose that's why there's a net under the high wire act at the circus, isn't it? Because we do fall off the wire from time to time. That's the hardest part of all, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. It's so hard because when I'm not at work, I feel guilty, not being around everyone here. And then when I'm at home, and then when I'm at work, then I'll feel guilty about, missing out on things with my daughters. And even being there for my husband, like it's a lot. And but I have this sort of bad trait of just saying yes to everything and worrying about
I
it
suffer
later.
from that one too. Yeah.
But and many people say, oh, you're really active on social media, and it's really great to be out there and be prominent to, promote the business and all of the great things that we do, not only for our staff but for the customers as well, and the community. But I kind of look back on it and go, how did we even fit all of that in? Because, there's only so many hours in a day. And, I think we have a really good way of just being able to multitask. And you have to now, because those three things are key, your team, the community, and your customers.
Yeah,
That's what we're
absolutely.
here for.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think the old school thinking is about punching the clock, right? Like,
Yeah,
doing the
absolutely.
hours.
Yeah.
The modern way of viewing, success is actually the result. Looking at, naturally the financial results and the KPIs, but your people and retention, and those are the bigger examples of success, and what good is looking like for sure. And the industry's changed, Eagers has changed. There's been a hell of a lot of change, but how's Darwin changed over the last 20 years since you've been there? Because it has changed a fair bit, hasn't it?
Darwin has it's very, I can say this because I moved up here nearly 20 years ago, and it is different, but for the right way. We're a big multicultural community now, because so many remote opportunities. A lot of people come up here to start their visas. We've got so many people that are not just from interstate, but that are from all around the world. And I think that just adds a little bit of extra flair to the territory in a good way. There's nowhere else in Australia that you can own a crocodile as a pet, I might say. But here you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But the territory is, I think, an untapped little, area for people to come and visit. There's so much here to see and do, and this beautiful sunsets. We are spoiled every night
magic.
with incredible sunsets. And
Mindle Beach Markets is one of my favourite things up there. Yeah,
it is great there. Yeah. And our people too. We've got 42% of the market, should I say, for Toyota, and you're probably 80%, probably a tad more, commercial that we sell here. So we are very busy looking after our customers with their vehicles and making sure that they've got the right, basically, tools to be able to look after their families or their community, or their farms and their businesses, and making sure that we keep them on the roads. Our conditions up here are very harsh, and
yes,
especially out at Gove, we don't even have a full closed-in shed. So sometimes the boys out there are working on engines that the sun is, baking on them. It's very different, and it's surrounded by red dirt, might I add. So the elements that we deal with here are it's just different, and I think it breeds you in a better way, a different way, should I say, that isn't anywhere else in Australia.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah,
I would never leave here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it. I know obviously people think of Darwin and they think of isolation, right? Like, because it's,
if they've never been, maybe.
Yeah, but you could jump in your car at Darwin Airport and drive for 45 minutes, and all of a sudden you're out into what you would perceive to be like the outback. But I think that also is its charm, because it basically forges a community. Everyone's there together, so everyone works. It's a part of the charming part of Darwin at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. Yes.
Yeah, cool. What do people in the automotive industry outside of the Northern Territory not understand about running a business up there? Like, naturally they got the challenges of isolation and so on, but what do you think the biggest challenges of running a business in that part of the world is?
I wouldn't say being up here is challenging. I'm really lucky to have a really good support network through Eagers, but also Toyota. It's very important. They are always here visiting, and having that good relationship is paramount to the way that we can get parts, the way that we can get cars, and relationships are everything because of the distance.
Yes.
Relationships are everything up here, and building on phone calls and constant contact. It's not as easy as someone from a regional office getting in their car and coming to have a conversation with me, because that just doesn't happen. But I'm thankful to say that I don't think it would be as hard as what people expect, because of the support that we've got from, Lexus were here the other day. They come up constantly as well. Toyota are up here a couple of times a month, and then Eagers I'll fly down, or they'll pop up every 3 months too. So. No matter where I need that support network, I'm very lucky that the OEMs that we are a part of and the parent company, they're amazing at what they do. And
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
just have the ability to continue to drive the results that we need to.
Yeah. And I think thankfully we live in a great age where, we've got good connectivity, don't we?
Yes.
It can be more than a phone call if you need it to be. Yes, it
Yep.
doesn't replace the in-person stuff, but it's a better compromise than just picking up the phone.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point that you highlight, because I think it wouldn't be as easy 20 years ago because there wasn't that connectivity and the ability to fly all the time. It wasn't what it is today. So it's a really good point that you make.
Yeah. Yeah. Connectivity. It's a blessing and a curse all at the same time.
Would we really have run out of toilet paper in COVID if social media wasn't a thing? Probably not.
No. But then again, social media probably has a lot to answer for other than toilet paper.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good. This has been a very good chat, Tegan. Really appreciate you taking the time. I've got one more question for you.
Yes.
What's the one thing you would want a young person, especially a young woman, considering a career in the automotive industry, what would you want them to know?
I would want them to know how amazing it is to work in an industry that you can make into a career, that you can be surrounded by incredible people, that you can become a mini emerging leader yourself. And if you push the boundaries, and anyone and everyone can be in the seat that I'm in if that's what they want. And if they end up falling in love with vehicle sales, and we've got people that have been in that role for decades because they just love doing that and they are addicted to that thrill of the sale, you can choose that too. The sky's the limit with the automotive industry, and the ability to work with a massive company like Eagers and be a part of Toyota and Lexus. You've got that ability to be able to be the best at what you do and then have the capability to move interstate. Maybe even move, to New Zealand as well. Like there's so much
Or
opportunity.
Vancouver.
Oh, yep, in Canada. And we'll continue to grow. The sky's the limit. So don't think, just join. And for anyone that's got, questions, find me on LinkedIn. I'm there to be able to help, the ability for any male or female. Just don't think, just do, and sign up.
That's a good one. Don't think, just do. Very good. Well, on that great note, appreciate your time today, Tegan. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Cameron. Thank you.
Cheers.
You've been listening to the Automotive Talent Show, where career stories, business journeys, and market insights come together from across the automotive industry. If you found value in this episode, follow the show and share it with someone in the industry. To learn more or connect with Cameron, search Automotive Talent on LinkedIn or visit automotivetalent.com.au. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.